Alasdair Phillips is a professional engineer and scientist who is widely recognized as one of the few truly independent UK experts on the possible adverse health effects of non-ionizing radiation, about which he has been studying and writing for more than 25 years. He started working as an engineer in the mobile communications industry more than 40 years ago. Alasdair has given professional advice to many local authorities and presented expert evidence on these matters to the High Court, local courts, public inquiries and hearings, and was a technical committee member on Offer, the UK electricity regulator. Alasdair is also a scientific advisor to Children with Leukemia, a leading UK children's cancer charity. Over the past 15 years, he has been both a speaker at and chairman of many international technical conferences regarding mobile phones, base stations, and power lines and health. In 1987, he helped to found PowerWatch, a consumer service providing information on the possible adverse health effects of non-ionizing radiation. Alasdair Phillips, welcome to the Global Freedom Report.
Thank you very much, Brent. I hope you can hear me.
I hear you very well, as do our listeners, and it's a pleasure to have you with us. What exactly is non-ionizing radiation? Please tell this layman.
It's an interesting concept. It dates from ionizing nuclear radiation that has enough energy to damage chemical bonds, and that's what causes ionizing. If you knock a chemical compound into two bits, you get two ions, and that takes quite a lot of energy. And it was always thought that radiation, if it didn't have enough energy to break a chemical bond, it couldn't do anything to us. And so it was split into ionizing radiation, which is primarily nuclear radiation, and in electromagnetic terms, X-rays and gamma rays and cosmic rays, and non-ionizing radiation, which is light and radio frequencies.
Okay, so non-ionizing radiation is the kind of radiation that presumably we come into contact with all the time.
Yeah, it surrounds us all the time, and we're bathed in it increasingly year after year. Everything's going wireless, we're getting more and more of it. And although it can't directly break chemical bonds, nobody now believes that is actually what affects biological processes. Well, that's not true. There are a lot of physicists that are still sort of living in the 19th century that seem to governments and industry wheel out to say, well, no, it can't do anything. But the whole dance of life, the whole about DNA replication, the forces involved are a fraction of what the energy is needed to break these covalent bonds. So just on energetic terms, we don't need that level of energy to cause problems. But also, sorry.
No, you were in the middle of a sentence. I wasn't saying anything.
All right. So I heard something came through my headphones. But we also know the whole thing about light, how it's important to have our circadian rhythm, our day and night rhythm set. You know, if we fly from the States to Britain or Britain to the States, our internal clock goes out and we don't sleep well and we feel tired and restless. And so light isn't ionizing. It just sets clocks in us. And what we're finding is that this mass of radio frequencies pulsing out from radio base stations and cell phones under the pillow are affecting our quality of being. It's like light. It's like somebody flashing a light at us or like a pneumatic drill out in the road. We can't hear it as such. Well, some people can hear pulse microwaves. Most people can't. But our body's aware of it, and it's acting as a stressor.
So just because we're not sensing something doesn't mean it's not affecting us. That's essentially what you're saying there, which I'm sure is
absolutely. And there's a massive science, particularly there's a massive science on people, but there's particularly a massive science on plants and animals and microbes and effects of very low levels of electromagnetic fields. It's all sort of dismissed. There's various reasons for it. Until relatively recently, very few people held radio transmitters to their head. They just didn't do it. And the people that did do it tended to be young and healthy. The police forces, the military, the people that were doing it weren't tracked long term, but so it was generally felt that it was okay. But there've been a number of changes. What they had was transmitters like AM medium wave radio transmitters, which emitted a fairly constant sort of signal. What we've now got with digital communications with our cell phones is a really harsh pulsing signal. It's like machine guns going off. It's coming out in little bursts. And it's felt that these little bursts are far more disruptive to our well-being than the old walkie-talkies that you used to get.
Recently, I did a story about how telecommunications companies have hidden in the technical fine print at the back of their manuals warnings to not place the cell phone or mobile unit too close to the user's bodies. From this, one may certainly infer that a potential problem exists with these units. What can you tell us about the problem?
Yeah, are you still hearing me fine?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, good. The problem is that they're talking about is that the phones are measured being held in normal manner again next to somebody's head. But of course, most of the time we don't carry them like that. We either carry them on our belt or in a pouch or in our pants pocket, or a lot of women have them in a sort of shoulder bag or even tuck them into their bra sometimes, amazingly. And so the phone is actually next to the body. And all the time that you're carrying it on standby, and when it rings, it works on full power. And at that point, it's putting more energy into your body than it breaks the rules. It's actually more than even the high levels that they allow. So it's when you're carrying it, it shouldn't be touching your body.
Well, how certain are we that the perceived danger of this type of closeness of something like a cell phone really exists?
Well, we're pretty certain. Well, we're very certain. Whether it's actually, I mean, my view of cell phones is they're not safe, and we should actually use them. They're not completely safe, and therefore we should use them with caution, just like we use any other thing, like we drive a motor car or a motor vehicle. We do it with caution. At the moment, the impression is given that you can use it as much as you like, whenever you like, and actually it will never do anything to you. This thing, the warnings that they give is more to do with really quite high levels of energy, which there's some good biological evidence, scientific evidence, that it does cause harm, which is why in America, for example, it's 1.6 watts per kilogram. That's the amount of heat per kilogram that can be put into your body from the cell phone, and it's in any 1 gram of body tissue. And if you do more than that, then there's a chance that things will be damaged. And the cell phones are tested so that if you hold them against your head, working at full power, they won't exceed that level. But in fact, if you put the phone particularly the other way round, like you often do in a belt clip, with the face of the phone facing outwards and the back of the phone facing your body, and it's closer than about an inch, then it will put more energy than that straight into your body. And if it's down on your belt, it will be kidneys and liver. If it's in your pants pocket, it will probably be testicles. And there's very good evidence that it dramatically reduces the quality of sperm and your chances of having children, and good, healthy children.
Now, I want you to know that I read that, and when I read that, I immediately, I was doing that. I have a belt clip cell holder, and I have consistently had it in there with the keypad facing out, and then I just pop it out, and there I'm ready to dial. And since I read that, I've reversed it, and despite the fact that it seems really weird to my mathematical mind, I've reversed it, and now I've got it backwards because of that. So, yeah, I had no idea.
No, well, they don't explain these sort of things because they don't want anybody being worried about it at all, which is the whole thing, you know?
That was the next question. Why are there no warnings more prominently on the packaging? You think it's they don't want people worried? I think it's probably corporate profits.
Oh, it is. Well, it's not just corporate profits. It's corporate profits and government tax. There's no question about it. There is actually no excuse, for example, if we're going to allow, I wouldn't let children under the age of 10 or 12 have a cell phone, personally. I would say no. Israel has now said no child under, or young person under 18 should use a cell phone. That's in Israel. But let's say we are going to let them in secondary school, 11 or 12, we're going to give them a cell phone. Then safe cell phone use should be on the curriculum. It should be taught. What are the things that you can do and shouldn't do with the phone? And it's not done because is, you say, it's corporate profits, which are enormous now. Now it's all rolled out. They're absolutely phenomenal. Billions and billions. Vodafone's just arguing with the UK alone over a £6 billion tax bill, that it hasn't paid. This is a tax bill, because it was putting money offshore. It's large amounts of money. Now, in the UK, it's not just industry, but the government in the UK now gets over £20 billion sterling. What's that, about $30 billion, something like that?
I think it's somewhere around 2-1 at this point. So I think that would be about $40 billion.
It's as much as that, is it? But it's an enormous amount of money, tax revenue into the UK economy from cell phone use. This is from buying cell phones, from using cell phone time, and all the other things. It's now like more than alcohol and tobacco put together. So governments aren't interested in rocking the boat. The industry aren't interested. And as soon as you start putting warning flags go up in people's minds. Oh, maybe I should cut down on use. Maybe I shouldn't do this. And they don't want that message. So it's almost impossible at the moment, and it's incredibly frustrating.
I want to summarize what I've just heard you say, because as much as jaded as I've become around everything, this is just amazing. Telecommunications is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Government is now making the dollars in taxation. In the meantime, I think it's billions of people carry cell phones. Young children are, no matter what you may say or Israel may pass a law, young children are weaned on mobile phone technology before they even go to school. Children are frequently given cell phones. Now, you're telling me that all of these billions of people and all of these units are dangerous to the lives and health of their users.
Yeah, basically. Or potentially dangerous. Not everyone's going to be hurt. My father, who lived till he was 87, smoked 20 cigarettes a day for most of his life, 40 a day in the central part of his life, and didn't have a lung problem, didn't have a smoking-related disease problem. Some people can do it, and it's almost certainly the same with radio frequency radiation. Some people seem to be relatively immune to it. Other people seem to be incredibly sensitive to it, and you're probably seeing some of these stories, these electrosmog refugees having to live in forests and caves and things because they're being so affected by the electrosmog around them. Now, that's one extreme. The problem is that brain tumours, we'll start with brain tumours, although I actually don't think that's the most... It's one of the more serious potential effects, but I don't think it, in a public health terms, it is, because actually not many people get brain tumours. So even if we have a 3- or 4-fold increase in brain tumours, it's still not that many brain tumours. It's nasty for the people.
Yeah, but is it worth the risk?
Well, the thing is that we don't...
Essentially, people use cell phones for convenience. So essentially you're saying, is your life worth the convenience? Is the risk of...
Well, it's sort of, but it's much more complex than that, isn't it? Because most of us, or many of us, have to use cell phones for work. It's actually a requirement now. Many firms actually require it. Brain tumours typically take between 20 years and 40 years to be diagnosed after they've started in your brain. That's the typical time frame. Nobody's used cell phones for more than about 10 years, or very few people have used them for more than about 10 years. There have been cases in the courts. They've been dismissed at the moment because there's no proof that was what did it. There are quite a few brain cancer surgeons, who believe that cell phones are related to tumours. There's quite good evidence, even in the Interphone study, which has been put out, that it doesn't show an effect. Well, it does show an effect.
Now, Alasdair, I'm not sure, but I seem to remember a story from a couple years back or so about a brain tumor in the shape of a cell phone.